Let's get right into it. All around you, every single day, histories are being written. But, not with pen and paper. They're being written with clicks and with code. And they're not just about the past, they're actually about you. Just think about your day. When you were browsing online, when you streamed a show, or even that moment you had to prove you weren't a robot, you might not have realized it, but you were contributing to a whole new kind of history.
You've seen this a million times, right? This simple, kind of annoying little test to get to the next page. It's called a CAPTCHA, which stands for a completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. It's a mouthful, I know.
But what if I told you that every time you click on a traffic light, or a bicycle, or a crosswalk, you're doing so much more than just proving you're human? You're actually acting as a teacher. So, what are you teaching? And who or what are you teaching it to? Well, you're teaching what we're calling an artificial historian. These are the AIs working quietly behind the scenes, scanning our digital lives for patterns. They're creating histories about us, and not just to recommend the next movie you should watch. No, they're helping to determine our access to critical things like education, healthcare, and even the justice system. So yeah, this isn't just a tech issue, it's a history problem. So, how exactly does this whole teaching process work? Well, it's surprisingly simple, and it's something you've probably done without giving it a second thought. Okay, so sometimes instead of pictures, you get that reCAPTCHA with the wavy, distorted words, right? Well, it turns out those words often come from old, scanned historical books that an algorithm can't quite read because of smudges or faded ink. Every time you correctly type that word, you are helping to train an AI to read and transcribe millions of historical texts. You're basically helping to digitize our entire past, making history accessible to machines. So let's see what happens when one of these artificial historians has to act like a real one. We're going to look at a pretty fascinating case study. This is the Todai robot. Its one mission was to pass one of the most difficult university entrance exams in all of Japan. And get this, in 2017, it did. It actually achieved a score in the top 20% of applicants, and that included passing the history essay portion. So how in the world did it pull that off? Well, not by understanding history, but by mastering a system. It located keywords in the question, it matched them to specific textbook passages, and then it structured its answer based on simple rules it learned from past sample essays, like good history essays are generally in chronological order. It was all just text matching and generation. And this table here, this brilliantly illustrates the robot's thinking. This is its world history ontology. It's basically the framework for how it understands history. You can see how it breaks down these incredibly complex ideas into simple categories and attributes. To the AI, a treaty is just a list of participants, a purpose, and a time. There's absolutely no room for interpretation or nuance here. This very mechanical approach brings us to a really crucial difference between how an AI thinks about the past and how a human historian actually does it. An AI historian, it operates on certainty and rules. It matches patterns inside a fixed timeline. It sees history as a series of propositions, facts that can be proven true or false. But a human historian, they work with tentativeness and nuance. They interpret meaning. They explore shifting possibilities. Their work is based less on absolute facts and more on something the philosopher Aristotle called endoxa. The key to this whole human approach lies in this concept Aristotle called endoxa. Now, these aren't proven facts, but they're beliefs that are generally accepted, either by everyone or by experts. You can think of them as the shared understandings we all use to make sense of the past. And, crucially, they are shifting ground, meaning they can change over time as we learn more and ask new questions. This quote from historian Kate Pickering Antonova just captures the idea perfectly. How many sources does it take to write a history? The answer is enough. And enough is a judgment call, It's not a number an algorithm can calculate. It's a universe away from the Todai robot's rigid rules. This brings us to a really important question. Why does this difference between machine logic and human logic matter so much? Because these artificial historians, well, they aren't just passing exams anymore. And here is the crucial point. The simplistic, rule-based histories that are being created by AI have immense power. They are already shaping our present and our future in some very, very concrete ways.
I mean, really think about it. An algorithm creating a flawed history of you could determine whether you get into a certain school, whether you receive a loan, or even if you get fair treatment in the justice system. The stakes here are incredibly high.
And their influence is already massive. A 2021 survey found that 69% of people learn about history primarily through things like streaming platforms. And what curates those platforms? Recommendation algorithms. Artificial historians are already the dominant storytellers of our time.
So the problem is pretty clear, but instead of just fearing this new technology, maybe we need to ask a different kind of question.
What if, instead of letting machines build histories based on these really simplistic rules, we could teach them a more profound, a more nuanced, and a more human way of understanding the past? First Nations elders Anne Martin and Louis Yarlaporka O'Brien offer us a different path. Their wisdom suggests a different kind of logic, one that isn't about speed and efficiency, but about deliberation and connection.
And this brings us to this beautiful concept from the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, Nonti. It's a sense of time where the past, present, and future aren't separate boxes on a timeline at all. Instead, they are a single, interconnected process of becoming. It's a logic that is boundless, dynamic, and deeply connected to place. What a world of difference from the rigid, linear world of the Todai robot.
Look, AI is already making history every second of every day. It's learning from our clicks, our searches, and our digital ghosts. The real question we're left with isn't if it will write our history, but who we will allow to teach it and what kind of history we want it to write.